Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Andy. Good afternoon, Alexis. Welcome to the next Happy Melly coffee session. Alexis is with us today because his question got elected by our members to be discussed. I will read out the question and then we'll let Alexis to give a bit of background and see what we think about this. The question Alexis posted was how to start the transformation when managers are stuck in uncertainty and fear. That sounds like a very deep question, Alexis.
That's funny that this question is selected now, because I posted it quite some time ago, and sometimes you're looking at your peers to help unstuck you from difficult situation, and I was typically in this situation some time ago, and the thing was, okay, I was working with people that were telling, okay, we need to change because of, and they had a lot of really good rationale behind that, and so I thought it was quite easy because they knew why they needed to change, and at the same time, everything we were suggested about maybe we could start by this, or maybe we could start by something else. They were, oh yes, but maybe it will be too disruptive for the team, and so we were, oh, I don't know, oh, I'm not sure, oh, but maybe we need to think a little bit more about this, and so on. And I was thinking, okay, that's great. We can do a lot of analysis, but if we are not starting anything, and so the things are going worse and worse, and so as it's going worse and worse, we will not start because we are, what could happen if we do something? And that was a quite difficult situation. So that's why I asked the question about, okay, so do you have any ideas or how we can start?
I think it's a fantastic question, and it's also timeless because it keeps coming up in many people's lives. I know it keeps coming up in my work life. And before we dive into sort of our crowdsource ideas, you said you did that. You raised the question some time ago, maybe 6 or 12 or some months ago. What has changed for you in that, in the interim? What have you learned, explored? What has worked? What hasn't?
The thing was, I tried to work with this leadership team, saying, okay, I try to find good reasons to start. So I improved the rationale, I improved the analysis of why we need to change. And I've seen at some point that it was useless because they all know really well that. But having those rationale was quite useful for the next step. So that's okay. And then I tried to propose things we could do. Suppose, okay, maybe we can organize a World Cafe with all the teams. Maybe we could, and I proposed a lot of things, but it was not working. We were still stuck. So I think, okay, that's not the activity. That's really, okay, giving those people the authorization to do something that could fail. And so I started to discuss with the upper management level to not to say, okay, not to say it exactly what was the situation, but to say maybe we need to have a mandate for change. And we started with that, saying, okay, there are things that at the upper management level you could do to initiate the change. And we've seen that it was absolutely needed. And so at some point, we can say that the real start for the transformation was just an email sent by two vice presidents of the company to say, okay, we will start the change in this direction. And that's all. And then we could start. And it was really needed in this context.
Yeah. I love the question, and I want to unravel it a little bit and see where it goes. there's three parts that I think that are interconnected, but we might be able to discuss them separately. So you ask about working with middle management. There's then uncertainty, and then there's fear. So those three elements create this situation. The interesting thing for me is looking at each of them separately. So with agility, whether it's software development or product development or anything, you are inherently embracing uncertainty. That's the whole point of the system, right? It's complex. There is no certainty. So you need to be able to be reactive, fail, succeed, and keep finding your way along. I don't think you can solve for certainty. I don't think you can create certainty in this situation. And so I say, let's put that aside for a second. Yeah, Patrick.
Just wanted to say that assumes a certain maturity in understanding that taking risk is part of your business, acceptance of uncertainty. And
yeah,
I think many, especially within the middle management, that acceptance is not always there. That acceptance might come. Alexis is saying, and maybe I'm talking about large companies now because this is where I'm working.
Okay.
That might come. That might come with the approval from the vice presidents. Right? If they say now you're allowed, then suddenly that somebody's taking charge of that uncertainty. And I think it's a connection to the second point. It's the fear.
Yes. Yeah. And I wanted to get to the fear too. And so Alexis, I think he's in the middle of a fire drill. So let's bear with him and watch him go to the nearest exit. So that fear is a safety issue, right? So change can be scary. I was talking with, I can't remember their names, but a couple of, very well established and practiced agile coaches. And people were saying, how do you measure success in a transformation? And one guy said, I just have two questions. Well, maybe three. I asked the product owner, how much value is being delivered? And if that's going up, we're having success. But on a broader sense, he provided two questions that get to the psychological safety on the team. And I thought, wow, they are so simple, but so powerful. So they do a 5-point scale, 1 to 5, 1 low, 5 high. And they do an anonymous survey periodically. And the first question is, on my team, I find it easy to admit mistakes and ask for help. And the second question was, on my team, I find it easy to discuss interpersonal issues, i.e. conflict. And I thought, wow, so if you see that going down or stagnating, there's an opportunity to have an introspective or a retrospective with the team and say, okay, how do we create more safety for you? Which I think begins to address the fear element in this change initiative. There's no answer to that question. How do we make it easy to admit mistakes? But at least you expose that people are concerned about.
Okay, I will listen to the recording, guys. I need to cross the road.
Okay. Well, you still have Wi-Fi, Alex.
So far, so good.
I love it. We're getting a tour of Boston. But anyway, so I thought that was powerful. So if you could begin to address the fear component by creating more safety, to say mistakes are okay, asking for help is okay, and having a safe place for conflict to figure out the path through this uncertainty, you might have a better chance of working with middle management who is so unused to uncertainty and conflict and mistakes.
Alma, welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
So, what brought you to this discussion? Do you have any thoughts about what Andy is explaining, what Alexis has been saying? If you had to deal with fear, uncertainty of people when it comes to change or to start change?
Yeah, I feel that it's mostly like resistance. So I just been reviewing the books by Jürgen Appelo, and something that came to my mind is the book about how to change the world. So in this book, we can talk about a lot of the system because the system is very complex. So we need to cover a lot of aspects when we are going to make a change.
Have you had the opportunity to be in an agile transformation or any significant business change initiative?
In the past, yeah, not for agile, but in the past I was working in a company. It was for ISO 2000, I remember. But I remember that it's very important to have the CEO and the initiative, because he will be on charge or making the people to know about the importance of an organizational change. So that's one of the things I remember that was very important, because since the CEO is very compromised, he can make all the people to participate.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. That if you don't have support from the top, it's very difficult. But the Alexis's question was geared also to the middle management, right? So yeah, you have the people at the top saying, yes, we must start this transformation, and you have maybe people down closer to the ground that's saying, yep, we're ready to go. But what do you do with the people in the middle and their uncertainty and fear?
Maybe in this case, try to celebrate all the baby steps we have. I think that's very important for us. Maybe just implement small celebration grids.
Right.
So we can use them to celebrate of everything that we are learning with the team. That's
a great idea.
Yeah, I think this is really very, very important what you're saying, Alma. If you need to get middle management along, I think you need within the teams or below that middle management layer somebody that has an interest in change, that can lead little experiments, little steps, and involve that middle manager in the first results, show them some things, and step by step bring them a bit on board. What you say as well, Andy, I think many middle managers are there because they stick to what they did in the past, because that has brought them where they are. That was their success formula. And what you're asking them is to take a look at your success formula, change your success formula. And there's people, it's not so much fear for the change or the transformation maybe at the company level, but it's fear for having to change themselves. So one exercise, it's already 2-3 years ago, it's actually with a group of volunteers that I picked up through our internal social network. It's called Break a Stupid Rule. You simply bring the people together. It sounds extremely silly, but it's very powerful. You ask the people, okay, what is bothering you today in your work? What is holding you back? which are the rules or the policies that if you get rid of them tomorrow, you're more productive. And you can do that in a very small committee. Do it with 2 or 3 people. You get a small list, and you talk about that with that middle management layer, and you ask their help, right? Because often there's things that, okay, if we could bypass this, or we could bypass that, and then they get placed back into a role where they're important, because often these things you cannot really do them alone as a team, but you have to bring it to other people to get the conversation going, and like that they get into the rhythm, into the flow. It is a very interesting process.
I like that. Can you recall a couple of examples of a stupid rule that people said, let's break it, for context?
This had simply to do with, I have to recall 2 or 3 years ago. I remember there was 1 or 2 that had to do with reports of reports of reports. So people tend to report for themselves to understand where they stand with their work. And then somebody in another department wanted a similar report, but just slightly different. And then the management was coming, the manager himself wanted something similar but slightly different. And yet his manager wanted something, but with 1 or 2 different attributes. It's okay, let's stop doing this. And involve that manager saying, okay, I don't want to report to 4 different people, 80% the same report, but slightly different, because it's consuming half a day or a day in my week once a month. I need this to change. And I need your help, because you're the one that knows what all the others actually need, and get to a consensus. And they started doing that. They didn't realize that other people were asking similar reports to their people. But it's also with unknown, there are big groups, big departments. If you don't give a manager input for change bottom up, it's very hard to get support top down. And if that starts to flow upwards, and especially in times when transformation must be done or change must be done, such managers that have been involved by their teams, so not the manager that has involved their teams, those are always there. You always have the very charismatic ones that understand the power of the team and always involve them. But we talk about the other group. Yeah, as a team, I think you can help your middle manager to start transformation by giving them input and let them be part of what you believe that needs to change. It's inclusion top down, but it is also inclusion bottom up. Just complaining with each other is not going to start any transformation.
I like that. So did that become a change in the role of these managers, in a sense?
Well, in a sense that they, over time, and I'm still in contact with one of them, they felt less pushed around by others. They got more self-secure that they could initiate these kind of discussions with their peers and their management layers, rather than that their management and their peers were all pulling at the same time, but slightly different in way that you have to start. And now they come with a change on top of that. What does that mean? I just got it almost under control. So yeah, it helps. But I think it's the team creating a safe space for the middle management. Invite them in. So nice. Hey, we're just people like you. We know that you are deciding on our salary, but don't worry. You can say whatever you want, but here's our ideas, and here's what we need help with. So asking help, which you said also in the, it's dare to ask help, and more powerful as a team, dare to ask help.
But they have to be ready to ask for help.
Yes,
right.
There must be
and I wonder,
somebody in a team that is willing to start this. And I think if you don't have somebody like that, it's the only alternative is maybe an external person or somebody at the middle management layer that really has strength and there's the push on it. Okay, if
Right.
middle management is stuck in fear and uncertainty, and the teams that are working for him have similar characters, and there is not one that dares to step up or start something, or then it's really how do I get top management executives? How can I convince them? And convincing top management normally only works in one direction, that is talk their language. Basically, here's how it improves our balance sheet, our top line, our bottom line. And if that advantage seems big enough, then they will start. Right? But some of the companies, especially bigger companies, are too often assumed to know everything, but hardly ever do know everything that's going on. But this is a false assumption of many people in companies.
Right. I want to go ahead, Alma.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Yeah, I was thinking that as you mentioned about we need some safety in order to fail in our experiments. It's also important the constant feedback. So the feedback in all levels, so we can see. We can celebrate what we're doing good. We can change and adapt. We're not doing well in order to the organizational values as well, because we also need to be aligned to the organizational values. And the top management will be also maybe providing feedback regarding if we are aligned or not in the changes that we're doing. Mm-hmm. So I think also that is very important.
Yeah. There's something bubbling up for me. I'll see if I can articulate it. So a very powerful piece of an agile mindset is to make all things visible, right? Yeah. You don't have to solve it. Just make it visible so everybody can see it. And I'm wondering, and this may be a crazy idea, if fear is the problem, you make the fear visible. And it can be difficult if there's not psychological safety. So I'm thinking of retrospective exercises that allow some anonymity, right? Post-it notes, silent brainstorming, right? Get the people on the team and the management into a room, or if they're remote, on a board, and have people anonymously write what they're afraid of. Right? Because how can you solve a manager's fear? Is it fear that he's going to be humiliated because he doesn't know what Agile is, or he's out of a job because there's no role for managers, right? So ask people to write down what they're afraid of. Right? Mm-hmm. Failure, rejection, loss of job, anonymously. And then maybe the next step is you look at it and you realize that we're all afraid of the same thing. Maybe we need to solve for that thing. I have no idea, Patrick or Alma, if that would work in a large enterprise. You know, obviously you're not going to get 10,000 people to do it, but could you get a department of 50 or 10? Or is that just absurd thinking on my part? I've noticed some fear.
I don't think it is absurd thinking. I think it is very progressive thinking. And there are not many people in larger organizations that have such a mindset. I think this is where part of the problem is. There's always the word that you can experiment, but then it comes down to, but the policy says that if you experiment, you have to experiment like that. So, okay, that's nice, but what does that mean? And that kills a lot of initiative. And that is something I'm personally seeing almost on a daily basis. I've launched since Nokia bought my company in January. I launched 4 or 5 different ideas for little experiments. Doesn't have to be big, and they all get lost in the mass of transformation and rules and policies, and it's undoable. And I try to do this with a friend that is part of the change agent organization. So we have a change organization. Is that coming back to me saying, is it a great things that right now we're not allowed to start doing these kind of things? And they think, okay, it's not costing anything. It's for free if people want to participate. And of course, you can disobey everything and anything. But yeah, there's also a recipe for the fast way out. No, I mean, in the end, you have to balance that a little. If there is a prescribed plan and that plan takes 6 to 9 months in order to get people motivated for this new organization, yeah, can you just start to experiment and disrupt that already in the first 6 months? If you feel like that some things can be done differently or maybe even better or can be experimented with more, it's also for the people themselves. No, many are overloaded with work. Of course, you ask for volunteers. People volunteer, and then you have to postpone your activity 4 or 5 times because they get caught up by whoever in whatever activity. So timing is very important. Timing is extremely important. It's for sure to start transformation. You can't always postpone it. So at some point in time, you'll have to cut through the chase and just do something. But then again, do something, and for me, has to ensure at least that it doesn't hurt people. At least people that are really working and that have really a lot of things on their plates, and you always know who those are because it's always the same people somehow.
Yeah, it circles back a little bit to what Alexis said at the beginning. Let's just try something. Let's just do something and move ahead. But to do so, you need either permission or safety that you're not going to get shown the door because you broke a stupid rule. Interesting. Alma, I'm curious, what have you observed in your travels that helps create a sense of safety in a team, in an organization?
I think it's very important because maybe from our managers, they are expecting some results, and even it's kind of difficult if we are being evaluated with no only feedback every 6 months, and it is not like kind of safety to fail when our performance is based on rules that are defined, and also if our bonuses are attached to the goals that are set every 6 months. So we are not getting feedback every time we are trying something. So I think that's very important to be safety in order to try something new.
Remove that extrinsic reward system of KPIs or MBOs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make them OKRs.
But
and if every time we try something new, we just, and if we fail, then the manager said, no, you are failing, you are doing something wrong. So when we get a feedback like that, we are not feeling safe to try something new.
Right. So you will fall back to the old way of doing things. And then that transformation either stalls or fails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting rid of that is a discussion in itself, I think. It's a transformation in itself in many companies to get rid of objectives that and bonuses that are related to objectives and that are related to change and stuff like that. It's just a fear to
Right.
experiment because fear of to not experiment because otherwise it might cost you a bad reputation, it might cost you a job, it might cost you the next promotion, it might mean that it impacts somehow bonuses that you're going to get. That fear is so real in so many companies. But that I think that deserves its own Happy Melly coffee chat.
Yeah. So back to the question, how to start a transformation when managers are stuck in uncertainty and fear. We keep coming back to trying to create a safe place for them to learn, and for their teams to learn, which means it's okay to have mistakes. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have some conflict. So then maybe that's the beginning of the transformation, not the agile process skills and or Scrum or Kanban skills, but to transform the environment to make it safer, to admit mistakes, to fail, to ask for help. I like Almer's idea of the celebration grid that says, look, I failed, but I learned something.
Mm-hmm.
In the success column. And no penalties. As you said, Patrick, it's a whole nother conversation to disconnect rewards and bonus from the transformation. Maybe we put a ticket in the backlog for that.
Yeah, we have to get back on the coffee board to find the question for that because there's so many angles to that, and that would take us another 2 hours or something like that to discuss here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like half an hour on the road. Is there some last? I think you made some nice conclusion overview, Andy. Alma, do you have anything to add? Or a final word? Or final words?
No. So if Alexis comes back from Fire Drill, leave us some comments in YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Well, invite him to join the discussion on YouTube. And
Great question, though.
We'll advise him as well. He can pick up his question and just put it in Who Has an Answer To channel on Slack. And we'll continue the discussion over there. Alma, thank you for joining. Andy, thank you for joining. And everybody that will watch this, thanks for watching. And enjoy the weekend for now. Bye-bye.